All in favor?
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous. We have Dave Reiniger as our chair, Tom Hart as our vice chair, and Doug Spielman as our secretary. And I guess on my list here, before I turn this meeting over to our chair, I'd also just mention that we have Deb Zepp here as our stenographer. So I'm going to turn this over to our chair, Dave.
The purpose of the hearing tonight is to listen to the reasons for an exemption being asked by Alvin B. Miller III. And our solicitor will read the reason for that hearing.
Okay, the purpose of this zoning hearing is to consider the application of Elvin B. Diller III relating to his property known as 6745 Old Harrisburg Road, York Springs, PA 17372. The property is also known as Adams County Tax Parcel Number 22I05-0006-000. Property is located in the Commercial Industrial Zoning District of Huntington Township. The applicant proposes to improve the property with a gravel lot, paved driveway, and associated stormwater facilities. The proposed gravel lot will be used for stockpiling firewood. The applicant does not propose retail sales of firewood on the property. The applicant seeks the following relief from provisions of the Huntington Township zoning ordinance. A variance from section 27-1019.1.g, which requires open parking areas to have an all-weather surface. And also there's a request for variances under section 27-1155. There's 3 variances requested under that section of the ordinance. It's a variance from 27-1155.3, which requires that standard straight curbs and pedestrian walkways be installed surrounding the perimeter of parking areas. A variance from 27-1155.5 to the extent that it requires a traffic impact study, and a variance from section 27-1155.5a, which requires at least 2 separate points of ingress and egress from an arterial road or a major rural collector road.
Okay, to identify the properties, the applicant is Alvin B. Miller III. Would you please raise your hand or identify yourself?
Alvin
Thank
Miller.
you. And do you have counsel here this evening? Legal counsel?
No legal counsel, no.
Okay, there's none. The engineer, please identify yourself.
Paul Wilson.
Okay, and you are a public engineer?
I'm a professional engineer.
Okay. We do have Huntington Township solicitor or legal.
Well, I'm the zoning hearing board solicitor,
Hearing board.
but Todd King is the township solicitor. He's not present.
And then we have the township zoning officer, Scott Longstreet. Scott, would you please raise your hand, identify yourself? Okay.
Scott, are we saying your last name right? Make sure we're
Longstreth.
Longstreth? Okay.
Anything close is fine.
We would like to identify all other parties of interest, especially if you care to speak during the hearing this evening. So if you will please identify yourself and state for the recording by providing your name and your street address within the township.
Jeffrey Decker, 10 Sunset Lane, York Springs, PA.
Okay? Get that one? Anyone else in the room?
Cody Lear, 1847 Cranberry Road, York Springs, PA.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes?
Marie DeGangi, 1510 Cranberry Road, York Springs, PA 17372.
Okay, just to clarify, we have Marie DeGangi is on Cranberry Road. Cody, what was your last name again?
Lear, Leer.
On Cranberry Road, and Jeffrey Deckert on Sunset Lane. Are those the three people that are seeking party status?
I can add mine too. So Julia Brocious, 6735 Old Harrisburg Road. On the paper, it had my dad's name, because both of our names are on the lease.
Okay.
So you'll see Alan here. Yeah.
Okay. Parties interested in the zoning hearing are usually people with a direct interest in the matter, and that's usually defined by the vicinity of their property to the subject property that's subject to the application. Here, the property 6745 Old Harrisburg Road. Jeffrey, would you describe where 10 Sunset Lane is in proximity to that property? Mr.
The,
Deckert?
Sunset Lane is adjacent to Old Harrisburg Road, and my house actually sits on Old Harrisburg Road, but my driveway comes off 10 Sunset Lane, which is why I have the Sunset Lane address.
How far away is your property from?
It's like diagonal.
Yeah. Your
All right, one at a time. I want to ask. You know, we're keeping a transcript here. So, Mr. Deckert, you're pretty much almost adjacent to the.
Directly, my mailbox is, their mailbox is beside my mailbox.
Let's turn it to you, I can.
Okay, we sent notice to you as an adjacent property owner. Is that correct?
We sure did.
Okay. And we have two other people who live on Cranberry Road. Where is let's ask you, Mr. Lear, where is Cranberry Road in relation to this subject property?
Probably 2 miles, maybe, a little less. By the way the crow flies.
Okay, and then Julie, you said that you're at 6735 Old Harrisburg Road?
Yeah, right next to it, right south.
Okay, and you said that was one of the properties that got the notice?
Yeah, it's in my dad's name, Alan Wiener. My
Okay.
name's also on the property, but I don't know why they didn't have both their names.
Okay, I apologize for that
That's all right.
mistake. Is your last name also Wiener?
I got married, so it's different. So it's Brocious, Brosius.
Daughter of Alan Wiener.
Yeah.
Okay, the board will make a decision as to each applicant as to whether, and I think that, Ms. DeGangi, do you have anything to add about the vicinity of Cranberry Road to the subject property, to what Mr. Lear said?
No, I'm probably about,
Quarter of a mile up the road, maybe.
Little
About half a
further,
mile up the road,
a
probably.
little further than Mr. Lear, away from the property in question.
Okay, I generally recommend to boards that I represent, to limit the parties to, unless there's some extraordinary aspect of the matter, that they limit the parties, that they permit to be treated as parties objectors to those with properties that are either adjacent to or otherwise very close to being adjacent to the subject property. Certainly Mr. Deckert's property, as somebody who was identified as an adjacent parcel owner, and Ms. Brosius's property also as somebody who's on a property that's adjacent to or in the very close vicinity of this subject property. The members of the board know better than I do how far away the Cranberry Road properties are, but if we're talking a few miles away, I would not say that generally that they would be considered parties to a matter like this. I've asked the chair to vote on each person that is seeking party status, starting with, to entertain a motion with respect to each person, starting with Jennifer Deckert, who's
Jeffrey Decker.
Jeffrey Deckert at 10 Sunset Lane, who is one of the people that was identified as adjacent property owner.
Okay, do I hear a motion to either allow or not allow Jeffrey Decker to be a party to this hearing?
I make a motion that Jeff Decker is a party objector to this hearing.
Okay, I have a motion by Tom, second.
I second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So moved. Since we'll do them by nearness to the property, to Julie Brochus, do I have a motion either to allow or not allow Julie to be a party to this hearing?
I make a motion for Julia Brochus to be a party objector to this hearing.
Okay, do
I
I have a second?
I
Second, Doug. Discussion on this motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So moved. Okay, I think the next one in proximity is Cody Lear. Do I have a motion either to allow or not allow Cody to be a party to this hearing?
I make a motion to not allow Mr. Cody Lear to be a party objector to this hearing due to lack of proximity to the adjacent properties.
Okay, I have a motion to not allow that party. Do I have a second to that motion?
I second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So move. The final is Marie Craig?
DeGangi, I think.
DeGangi?
Correct.
I'm
Yes,
sorry,
that's
Marie.
correct.
Do I have a motion either to allow or not allow Marie to be a party to this hearing?
I make a motion to not allow Marie DeGangi to be a party objector to this hearing due to lack of proximity to adjacent properties.
Okay, do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to not allow that party. Do I have discussion on that motion?
I just have a question. Is there any public comment at the end, not on the record or whatever? This is a public hearing, correct?
This is a public hearing, the law
Public
is
hearing, but not a public speaking.
the law is clear that the board cannot consider unsworn testimony by non-parties as a basis for any decision for or against an applicant's request. So generally, the board can choose to take public comment if they so choose, but it would be after the hearing is concluded and won't be taken into consideration. You can be called as a witness by a party in interest. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but if another party to the proceeding chooses to call you as a witness, you can be sworn in and provide sworn testimony if it's relevant to the application. Returning to the motion, I guess there's a motion, a second, and discussion.
We have a motion and a second, and I'd like to keep the discussion to that motion and second at this point. So, is there any more discussion from the board to the motion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion of not allowing Marie DeGangi to be a party to this hearing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So moved.
Mr. Chair, I would like to circulate, I have an entry of appearance form that I would like to give to Mr. Deckert and Ms. Brosius. Mrs. Brosius, you did say your married name. To fill out, it just has name, mailing address, telephone number, email address. You don't need to, we have on the record the proximity of your property and why you've been accepted as parties in interest. If you have an attorney, you would fill that in there too. But really what we need is name and mailing address and other contact information, and then for you to date and sign these. So I'll give those. Do you have pens?
I
I have an extra. You can just bring them up to me whenever they're filled out, and we'll just keep moving on here. Oh, here.
I'm going to, in speaking with my fellow board members, allow a 2-minute comment period by people, public hearing. After we've heard everything that is brought to us, allow those people that are not party to the hearing, if they want to make a 2-minute comment, that's fine, before we go into executive session. That way you don't have to wait around because the executive session could take a fair amount of time.
Like I said, before you guys decide on your final.
Before we
vote,
go
you'll give us a
into
few
executive
minutes.
session.
Very fair enough.
Is that fair?
Suffices for
Ms.
me.
Marie, is that fair on your end?
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. We need to then, I guess, swear in all the parties and witnesses, and our stenographer will do that.
And I just want to identify before she pauses, we will have the zoning officer, Scott Longstreth. We will have the engineer, the applicant, and the 2 parties in interest that we identified, Mr. Deckard and Mrs. Brosius. If there's any other people present that any person that I just identified intends to call as a witness, I would like the parties to identify them now so that they can be sworn in as well. All right, hearing none, let's have those folks stand up and have to be sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear in affirm? Tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we are on F.
Yeah.
Okay, all those parties that have been sworn in do have the right to be represented by counsel. And you've indicated that you do not have counsel here this evening, but I just want to say that. Formal rules of evidence do not apply, but irrelevant, immaterial, or unduly repetitious evidence may be excluded. Matt will take it from here.
Okay, I just want to kind of go through this because this is sort of my spiel, and I might cut some things out depending on the issues. Everybody who's been identified as a party or witness has been sworn. The testimony will be given under oath. Anybody who's not sworn in must be sworn in before he or she may present testimony as opposed to public comment during the hearing. A verbatim transcript of this hearing is being taken by our stenographer. Please don't speak over one another. Everybody will have time to speak when it's their turn. Each party or the council, if they have any, but we don't have any attorneys present, may cross-examine each adverse witness. Cross-examination of an adverse witness, this is the part I want to be really clear on. Cross-examination of an adverse witness is not the time for the person questioning to present their case. There's a separate opportunity where they can present their own evidence. Cross-examination is asking questions of somebody who has testified about their testimony to clarify things or to bring out other things that the witness might not have said. But it's not the time for the person doing the questioning to make their own speech or provide their own testimony. So everything should be in the form of a question, even if it's a yes or no question. The board can also ask questions, and as can I, of each witness who testifies. The applicant will present his case first. The township, through the zoning officer, will present its case next. When there's not a solicitor here for the township's case is usually the zoning officer just providing any information that he deems relevant, answering any questions from the parties and the board. Last, the objectors will each go in turn and present their cases. Once everybody has presented their case in chief, there will be an opportunity for each party to present rebuttal testimony and evidence. Usually that's not needed, but if there's a couple things out there that someone wants to follow up on based on what somebody else said, there'll be an opportunity to do that. We will provide, typically, if there's time, an opportunity for any party to make concluding remarks, closing arguments. The board, after the close of evidence, will adjourn into an executive session to engage in quasi-judicial deliberations, which is permitted by the Pennsylvania Sunshine Act. Following any such deliberations, the board will return to a public session and typically render a decision at that time. If the board isn't ready to render a decision at that time, you can schedule a subsequent decisional meeting, which must be within 45 days of this hearing. The board has to issue a written decision, assuming this hearing concludes today in terms of everything except for the decision. A written decision would have to be issued within 45 days of this hearing. Decision will be served on all parties. Parties may appeal any adverse decision to the Court of Common Pleas of Adams County. If any party does wish to appeal to the Court of Common Pleas of Adams County, it's strongly recommended that you seek advice and assistance from legal counsel of their own choosing. However, you are permitted to proceed and appeal pro se without an attorney. I'm just going to flow into the next section here, confirming our notices. This hearing was advertised in the Gettysburg Times on August 7th and August 13th. I have proof of publication dated August 13th from the Gettysburg Times to that effect. Notice was mailed to the applicant on August 5th by first-class mail. On that notice, the zoning officer was copied, as was the applicant's engineer, the township's solicitor, Todd King, and the Huntington Township secretary. The adjacent property owners were notified also by letter on August 5th of this hearing. And I will have the zoning officer confirm this, but it's my understanding that the property was posted with the notice that was largely what I read when introducing this matter, was posted by Mr. Longstreth on August 11th at around 11:30 a.m. On 2 locations on the property. Attached to this document that I'm referring to are some pictures that Mr. Longstreth took, I believe, of where the property was posted. Mr. Longstreth, could you confirm that that's the case?
Yes.
Okay. And you expanded the notice for legibility to the 2 pages. Is that, I mean, you have a copy of this. Is that accurately what you posted?
Yes.
And was the date correct, August 11, 2025?
Yes.
11:30 a.m. And those pictures are pictures that you took?
Yes.
Okay. We typically introduce these as a board exhibit, just so they're part of the record formally. So board exhibit 1 would be the proof of publication from the Gettysburg Times, the August 5th letter to the applicant, the August 5th letter to adjacent property owners, copy of the notice that was posted on the property, and the pictures that Mr. Longstreth took. Is the board okay with that?
We are.
We are, yes.
Did I already give you? Okay. Okay, let's go on to H.
Okay, we have comments and recommendations from our zoning officer. Scott?
Specifically, I guess the planning commission, just an update as to whether this was presented at a planning commission meeting.
Yes, at the August 8th Planning Commission, I'm sorry, at the July 28th Planning Commission meeting, discussion took place regarding the variance requests by the applicant. Please note that neither a recommendation either for or against the variance request is proposed by the Planning Commission members. Discussion and questions were made by Planning Commission members, residents of the township, and the applicant, Mr. Dillard. The proposed use of the property is to produce and store firewood during the fall and winter seasons. Activity will primarily occur between August and December, but may occur during other months of the year. Daily activity will be concentrated between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m., but may occur sporadically during daylight hours. No retail sales will occur on the property. Approximately 40 trailer loads of timber will be delivered to the property each year. Full-size pickups and dump trucks will be used to transport firewood to other locations for retail sale. Since the property is located along a state road, the applicant is required to apply for and obtain a Pennsylvania Department of Transportation highway occupancy permit for access onto that state road. The design of the entrance must meet PennDOT requirements. Equipment for sawing, cutting, and splitting timber into usable firewood will be stored and used at the property. Noise generated by this activity will be the same as chainsaw and truck engine noise. It is anticipated that up to 4 employees will be working at the site during primary working times. During primary working months, a temporary porta-john will be at the site for employee use. The applicant is proposing vegetative screening along 3 property lines abutting the neighboring properties.
Just a question that I had. What exactly is vegetative screening along those property lines?
On the land development plan, the engineer is proposing evergreen trees along 3 property lines, not along the Route 15 property line.
The US 15
Correct.
would be the line it would not have.
Correct.
And we'll have, the board will have additional opportunity to ask Mr. Longstreth questions when he presents more later. We should give the applicant the ability to go first here in terms of presenting.
Okay. So, Mr. Diller, the floor is yours.
Do you want me to go first? Okay. All right, if I just sit here, you don't want me to stand, it's up to you.
You may sit.
You're throwing it back to me?
It's up to
Okay.
you. It's up to you.
So I'll keep this short and sweet. I think the variance requests are fairly straightforward. You have, I believe you guys all have a copy there. So Mr. Teeter read off the 4 variances that we're requesting. The main crux of a lot of this is that there's not going to be customer traffic in and out. It's only for the use of Mr. Diller and his employees. So going back to the first variance request was for the all-weather surface of the parking areas. So we have, I have a larger plan here if it helps to open it up. I think you guys have a smaller 11 by 17 in front of you. We showed parking a loading and unloading spot and a couple of parking spots just for scale purposes on here. Essentially, that's what it would look like if we provided it. It wouldn't be a lot of parking. This isn't a, and again, we're not having customers in and out. So the need for an all-weather surface for customers really isn't there. So that's why we're requesting the variance from that requirement there. The next one, number 2, is the variance for the curbs and the walkways around the perimeter of the parking area. Again, the same reasoning as for the first one, is we do not have the customer traffic. That is typically why curbs and walkways are put in. Curbs are there generally as to, for a number of different reasons, but usually it's to protect pedestrians from vehicles running up over onto a walkway that they're on. So if we don't have the customer traffic in and out, the need to have curbs and sidewalks around the parking area really don't exist. It would only be the employees that are going to just come in and park where they need to on the gravel pad and do their work and then take off at the end of the day. The third variance request is for the traffic impact study. And this is one, we're not necessarily requesting a variance to not do one. I'm asking for relief from this requirement to allow the information that has been submitted to PennDOT, since this is a PennDOT jurisdictional road, just allowing that those satisfy the need for the traffic impact study. I don't know if I should ask Scott this, but once we get the land development, I think there would probably also be a corresponding waiver request of that individual subdivision land development requirement as well. But because the requirement's also in the zoning ordinance, that's why this request is here now. So again, we're not looking to not provide appropriate traffic information. We're just asking that the information that we've submitted to PennDOT suffice for this requirement. And the township has been included in all of those, that application process with PennDOT. And the last one is the 2 means of ingress and egress. Generally, PennDOT does not like having more than one way in and out of the property. If you have a property that has more than 600 feet of road frontage, they do allow it under certain circumstances. And I pointed out on the second page here of the narrative that the site distance, because of the speed limit out there, it's very marginal as to where you'd actually even get to appropriate locations out there for a second driveway, for one. And so that's why the likelihood of PennDOT even approving a second driveway is probably, I won't say it's 0, but it's probably as close to 0 as you can get. I think that's really the gist of what these variance applications are looking for. Alvin, is there anything you'd like to add into?
Yeah, everything that he has said is what we're thinking.
And I did want to add, it's noted in there, but there's at least 4 or 5 other commercial type uses up and down the road within a ½ mile in either direction. One of them is a facility that's probably going to be fairly similar to what Mr. Diller's doing, just not too far, probably what, a ½ mile to the
South.
That'd be the south, thank you.
Right.
I was just twisted because my plan's turned. So with that, I don't have anything else to add.
Am I reading this incorrectly, that on the plan you gave us, you're showing a entrance or exit on the north side of 24 foot down at the bottom of the hill?
Yes.
As well as, so you aren't going to have your entrance and exit where it currently is at the existing one-story building?
Correct. We're still in the middle of the PennDOT process. My understanding is that will probably go away. Part of the reason of wanting to move the driveway down to the bottom of the hill is to get the access away from these uses up here towards Sunset Lane and the neighboring properties here. That way, any traffic's going to be in and out. At my scale handy, probably what, 500-600 feet further to the north, away from these uses up here.
is that one-story building going to stay there?
The little
or-
shed there.
It's just a shed, we'll probably be removing it.
But is that also, is that a driveway there that is on?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a grown over gravel drive.
Right, that's
you
right.
know. It's fairly small, and it's probably 12 to 14 feet wide. It's, even to improve that, it probably does not have a PennDOT permit now. I mean, it's been there for.
It was the parking spots for the
Yeah.
pottery, there was a little pottery shed in there at one time, so that was the parking in the entrance for that property.
Mr. Wilson, will PennDOT require that something be done to that? Assuming that you're right that they would not approve two entrances, would they require that something be done to clearly eliminate that as a driveway?
Yes, they most likely will. I can't speak for them directly because obviously I don't work for them, but in past instances where I've worked on things like this, they require that. We always laugh in our engineering world, the term is obliterated. They literally want you to just completely wipe it off the face of the planet and take all that stone away, plant grass over it, and just completely remove it to where it can't be used anymore.
Would there be evergreens then?
Yeah, at that point, assuming.
It's not showing on your.
Right, it's not showing at the moment, but I anticipate that evergreen, and again, if the shed gets removed, that evergreen screen would extend the whole way to the corner of the property right there.
Just a question about the evergreen screen. You show on 3 property lines.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Is your plan different than ours?
No, this is the same plan, and unfortunately, I wasn't at that planning commission. The screening is here. There's an existing tree line over here along the,
Down the valley.
Yeah,
there's a
down-
half
yeah,
acre- there's a
down
half
the
acre
tree,
of
yeah.
woods that separate it.
yeah, and this whole bottom area is real swampy, and you walk, I mean, when we had the wetlands walked, we identified 2 wetlands and there's a stream, but you can walk down here and probably half of the year your feet are gonna be wet.
And Mr. Diller, I just want to hop in here. There are times when Mr. Wilson's speaking, when you chime in, which is natural to do, and you're not used to things you are saying being transcribed, but we have to, let him finish and then answer so that just one person is speaking at a time. I just wanted to remind you that. It's hard to do, I know, but go ahead. Anybody have? I had a question because maybe I'm confused about the application and requirements anyway, but so is it your understanding, Mr. Wilson, that the township is not treating this whole gravel lot as a parking lot, just the little area that you show as proposed parking spaces? Or is it that they would be requiring that entire, what you show as a gravel lot on the plan, have an all-weather surface?
It's my understanding that it would just be these smaller, the couple parking spots that are shown and the loading area, not the entire perimeter of the gravel lot being the parking perimeter, just a perimeter around this smaller area right here.
Okay, and an all-weather surface would not be gravel, was that?
Correct, it would be pavement, asphalt pavement, concrete, something like that.
I'd like to add something to that. The pavement, besides the parking areas, it would also connect to the driveway. So everything from the driveway to the parking area would have to be paved.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Yeah.
And the area that you're going to store the firewood, in order to get that firewood in, you're going to be using triaxles or transportation of some type. And that's going to be supported under the tires. How?
As far as the weight of the trucks, you mean?
Yes.
So yeah, those trucks will come in. Again, the gravel pad will be relatively thick. It's probably going to be a 12-inch thick stone pad. It's not going to be like I have a gravel driveway at home that's probably 4 or 5 inches thick. And like you said, that's not going to support a triaxle when it's fully loaded. So this will be a thicker gravel lot when they come in, and that will support the use. And again, it's not the trucks hauling the lumber. It's not the 40-ton 18-wheelers that you can see on a roadway. Generally, they don't They weigh probably closer to I'm going to guesstimate probably about 30 tons at most, and gravel lot will support that. And the driveway is also designed to support the weight of let me back up a second. The driveway entrance will be paved back to a certain point, back from the edge of the road, and that's designed also to support the weight of the trucks that will be coming in and out as well. It's not just going to be a thin layer of asphalt over top of stone. It's a, I'm going off the top of my head, I think it's like a 10, it's crazy. It's like a 10-inch thick asphalt pavement and like 3 or 4 different layers with another, I think it's 6 or 8 inches of stone underneath that yet. So the PennDOT paving sections, I believe it's like 16 or 18 inches.
Is there a culvert there coming out on Old Harrisburg Road that you're going to need to work with?
No, the road slopes away from, or the ground slopes away from the road, and the driveway is going to fairly much blend in with the slope of the ground.
The
So the
stormwater
water,
off of the road is on the west side. It's on the opposite side, not on your side.
yeah, that, as far as I know, that stays over there, and I believe it works its way down on the west side of the road and then comes down. There's the stream that's on the north of the property. It works its way there and then comes across under there.
Okay. And these proposed stormwater infiltration basins meet all requirements of runoff and that are standard within the industry?
Yeah, that's correct. And again, we were probably halfway through the land development process when this got flagged with these couple of zoning issues. So there's some, I think there's still a few little tweaks and things like that that have to be made yet. But and then we're also still working through the county conservation district as well. But I had a meeting with them last week, and they don't see any major things going on. Just there's some new paperwork that's involved with some of these things that's kind of slowed it down, and they have some issues with another job site it is that they're getting that cleared up. So that's kind of slowed their process down a little bit, but that's getting back on track.
Another question?
Sure.
Okay. In your project narrative,
Could you speak up a little bit, Tom?
okay, in your project narrative, section 3, you describe minimal traffic, average of 2 trucks, 10 triaxles, and 20 employee trips per week. And then in the township planning meeting, it's described as approximately 40 trailer loads of timber will be delivered to the property each year. Full-size pickup trucks and dump trucks will also be used to transport firewood. Could you clarify a little bit more what the truck traffic will be? This one says 10 trucks. Is it meant to say 20 employee trips per week, 10 triaxles?
Yeah, so mine, and unfortunately, with dealing with PennDOT World and dealing with this, it kind of messed some things up with nomenclature. So with dealing with PennDOT, you generally are looking at things, and when I talked with Elvin before we submitted this, before we do with PennDOT, he had anticipated so many truck traffic. Well, 40 trips in a year, 40 trips actually works out to, when it comes down to traffic counts, it's 1 trip in and 1 trip out. So 1 truck would generate 2 trips. Unfortunately, when you break that down over 52 weeks, it doesn't come out to a nice even number. It's like 1 point whatever. So as the engineer dealing with PennDOT, I rounded that up to 2. So that's where I came up with the average of 2 trucks per week. And so that's probably more on my end, where I've more or less overestimated what he did. But in the grand scheme of things, like he said, if he's dealing with 40 trucks, you're breaking that into, what'd you say, August to December's, 5 months out of the year. So you're dealing with roughly eight trucks a month. So you're still roughly about 2 trucks per
2
week.
weeks.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
The area you're identifying as a parking area, that's just parking for employees during the day when they're working or also?
Right, generally, and I've been on a number of sites like similar to this where they're gonna park wherever they need to. But yeah, those, typically they're gonna park probably closer to the entrance. You know, if they're working, say if they're working down towards 15, they may back their truck over there at some point, but typically like a porta pot's gonna be up closer to the entrance. Parking's gonna be relatively close to that. So yeah, that would be more or less for the staff when they're there.
I have a question, I'm not sure who's the best to answer this, but the property is zoned industrial, commercial industrial. If it's only their employees, if they market private property, is that still, as far as, so that to keep public from accessing the property, is that something that's allowed by the zoning and still be commercial industrial as far as to keep public off of the property?
Yeah, I think you can, from my perspective, you could look at section 27803 to see the permitted uses in the commercial industrial district, and it certainly does involve some things that would not be considered things that would necessarily have public access to. It could be private property based like forestry.
What I was kind of getting at was the requirement for the sidewalks and, you know, curbs. If public are not permitted on the property per se.
Well, I think that's another question that I have, and perhaps Mr. Wilson can address this, and I had intended to maybe, if the board didn't follow up with Mr. Longstreth about this, and ask that question, the section 27-1155 is applicable to retail stores, sales and office, and I'm just not seeing in the definition of those things how this would, how did it come about that in your mind that this was identified as a retail, as this section that applies to retail stores, sales and office, that these sections are applicable to this use?
Well, I'm going to, not to throw him under the bus, but I'm going to punch that to him, but when this plan originally came in, it was under the previous zoning officer. We had some verbal communications and I think between a handoff from the previous zoning officer to Scott that I think there maybe were some communications that may have been jumbled or didn't get conveyed 100% how we had them originally. And when Scott took over as zoning officer, it was under his impression that this was going to be a retail use. And I don't think at the time he understood that we weren't going to be having customer traffic in and out. So he was looking at it as a retail use, and that's how we ended up. From my understanding, that's how we ended up where we are.
Scott, do you have any comments to that?
Just that I thought this was the most appropriate use specified in the zoning ordinance that applied to the proposed use by the applicant. It's not manufacturing, he's not creating anything. He's using this property to cut firewood that will be shipped to a retail facility for sale. It was my impression that this was the best category of the use, a commercial general commercial retail use.
Do you have any thought, does the board have any follow-up on that? I mean, I agree with Mr. Dahlmstruth that none of the uses exactly fit this as far as defined uses in the ordinance, so I have some thoughts, I suppose, about let me get my bearings here, but there's a in the definition of manufacturing in the ordinance, it does say production of goods from raw materials by assembly of constituent parts produced elsewhere, or by a combination of these means, including the final packaging of such goods for sale or shipment. And then it says includes all activities included in the NAIC list of manufacturing activities. And I was curious and looked at the list of NAIC manufacturing activities, and there is under wood product manufacturing, there's a miscellaneous catch-all, NAAC number 321999. Which may include firewood and fuel wood containing fuel binder manufacturing. So that was one of the things that I was wondering if that definition could possibly fit. It just doesn't seem, and I guess that does bring up a follow-up question for Mr. Mason or Mr. Diller. It's clear in the application this is primarily for storage of firewood, but there seems to be an indication from discussion at the Planning Commission that there will be some production of firewood on the property. Is that true?
Correct.
Okay, and what will that involve? How intensive will that be? Will it be splitters, commercial splitting equipment, or mostly chainsaws and?
No, we have a commercial processor, so it's run by a little 4-cylinder Kubota diesel engine, has its own saw attachment, splitter, conveyors. So we'll have conveyors that conveyor the wood off, and then we also will stockpile that, and we'll have a machine that, rubber tire over there to load out and to load the trucks and to load the firewood processor.
But the firewood will not be sold from this site.
No firewood will be sold from there, no. It will only be hauled over to our retail location, into any other retails.
Anything more on that manufacturing? And I have another question. Under variance request number 2, it talks about pedestrian walkways. What is, and I guess this is maybe a question of Scott, what is defined as a pedestrian walkway? It doesn't say sidewalk.
Right. A sidewalk is typically assumed to be concrete path, but a pedestrian walkway could be something other than concrete. It could be a mulch walking trail, it could be a bituminous asphalt path. It's more than just a concrete sidewalk. And the purpose of a walkway, of course, is to go from your vehicle where you park to the storefront or other location where you're going to be doing your business. So since here there's not going to be any
Structure.
sorry, Right, there's no structure, there's no place, there's no customer location to be going from a vehicle to the retail location. So it really doesn't apply, but it's required in the zoning ordinance, so it has to be addressed.
So, am I correct, and I'm back to Mr. Diller or Mr. Wilson, that there's not even going to be like a storage shed that these employees can get in out of the weather if the weather turns bad while they're there, that they can eat their lunch there or sit down, take a break, get some water or something like that? Will there be any kind of a structure in or near that parking area?
No, they'll only have their vehicles plus the equipment that they'll be using, which is, most of them are AC machines. The processor has a seat and everything on it, so.
Okay.
Now, I'll put in there that there is possibly a shed for maybe to store some stuff that doesn't get stolen off the property or something like that, but maybe an 8x10, excuse me, an 8x10 shed, but nothing permanent, no permanent structures of any sort.
So it would be a shed that would set on top of, in the area of the parking area, possibly, that could be locked to prevent theft? Is that what you're thinking? Is that what you're saying?
Possibly, if I need it for tools over there, but there might not be a need for it. I'm just.
I'm just trying to get a feel for where the curbs, and it talks about straight curbs, so they could be set on top of stone, where the curbs and the pedestrian walkways, if they are required, would go to. If they don't go anywhere, but you're saying there may be a shed there, an 8x10 on top of the ground shed, so they could go in that area.
If you put a shed, would you put it like here, or you would put it on top of the gravel area? Like you would do a shed something like that.
Yeah, I mean, possibly, yeah, I don't know if that's what we would need to do.
Oh,
I mean, I just felt like the parking spots in that ordinance was more for a retail storefront.
Understand.
Or, you know, a big office or something like that, where employees would be parking at the office, getting out of their cars, walking up on the sidewalk, and then walking into the building. We're not gonna have any of that over there. This is just more of a storage facility where the guys will just, like you said, randomly park somewhere on the property, depending on where our wood's stored at the time, or where we're moving piles to, where the trucks could be getting loaded. So they could be parking at all different areas each day.
Any comments from Matt?
I guess with respect to the shed, just to follow up, there's no shed proposed at this time. Is that correct?
Correct.
And this maybe, I don't know this, but maybe Mr. Longstreth or Mr. Wilson could answer that. If a storage shed is installed on a property, does that require a permit?
Yes.
Okay.
Even if it's just sitting on top of the ground,
Yes.
it requires a permit.
There's-
in Huntington
A zoning
Township.
permit is still required to make sure it meets requirements.
Okay, I want to give, if the board doesn't have any more questions for Mr. Wilson, Mr. Diller, I want to give opportunity for Mr. Decker to ask them questions. And again, Mr. Decker, you'll have another time to speak about other things you want to speak with, but do you have any questions of them?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh,
Would you like to come?
Yeah, could I have a seat at the table?
Yeah. Scott, you don't mind having,
No, it's not.
it'd be easier to hear you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's ask questions of Mr. Wilson. He primarily testified, and I guess that he can have Mr. Diller chime in as well. Thank you.
Well, you guys brought up some great points about the shed and that kind of thing. I have a question about fuel storage.
Well, ask it of Mr. Wilson or Mr. Diller.
Well, how do you plan on storing your fuels for your equipment?
Our pickup trucks have fuel cells that we would bring fuel over with.
Are you testifying under oath to the board that there will not be one single customer with their own truck come onto that property to get loaded with firewood?
Correct.
Because I will have visual of what's coming and going from that property.
Yep.
Not one single customer with his own vehicle will come in. Instead, you're going to cut and store that wood, load it on trucks, transport it out to White Church Road, and dump it, and then reload it again for a customer.
Yes.
Or you could deliver it on your trucks directly to the customer without it going out to White Oak Tree Road.
Correct.
Either way, one way or the other.
Correct.
But a customer that has his own trucks, why would he pay to have it delivered?
That's their business model.
Now,
He's gonna
just
pick it up from our other location. We just have to.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you say.
He's going to pick it up from our other location.
That's all I have right now.
Does the board
Any-
have any follow-up?
Any questions of Mr. Decker?
Well, let's let him separately testify. It's just a follow-up to the applicant, and then he'll testify later if he has
Okay.
any other.
Okay.
We can ask him questions. Okay.
Thank you for attending.
This is, all right, Mr. Decker, we'll call you back then to present anything else you want to later. Both of you go back and have Mrs. Brocius come forward, and do you have any questions of the witnesses
I'm
so
good.
far?
I'm good for now.
Okay. All right, any follow-up from the board as to Mr. Wilson and Mr. Diller? Questions? If none,
What's that?
Township clerk next, if Mr. Longstreth wants to present anything else.
Sure. Is there anything else, Mr. Longstreth, that you would like to present on behalf of the township?
The only thing I would like to submit as exhibits is the information packet that I have supplied to everyone, which includes the application, the property deed, the photographs of the site, a copy of the tax map that shows the location of the property, and a copy of the zoning ordinance that's applicable to the variance requests, as well as the applicant's zoning variance request narrative.
Mr. Longstreth, is that all stuff that was part of their application? Was that all submitted by the applicant, or is that stuff that you added as informational?
The items that were supplied by the applicant are noted on page 3 of the application. The other items I added to the the packet.
Do you have an extra copy of that packet? We could just have that admitted as a full exhibit, and that would include, you said, the application, the relevant sections of the ordinance, the pictures, the tax map. All right, let's mark that then as Township Exhibit 1. Okay, that'll be Township Exhibit 1. Is that acceptable to the board?
Yes, sir.
And the applicant has a full copy of that?
Yes.
And that includes the memo for, you said, from the, that you did summarizing the planning commission's discussions.
Yes.
Get the public comment from executive session.
Yeah, what about these record again, if they have anything to present on the police and chief.
Okay.
I have just one question for Mr. Longstreth before we move on from him, and that is this question of the retail, et cetera, use under the 271155. Was there other uses that were considered as, I understand that you reached the conclusion that that was probably the closest thing in this zoning ordinance, but were there other things that you were looking at that you thought might apply, or is there any other thought process to that?
Well, there's another use that's similar, sawmill. But I thought that would be more appropriate to having raw trees brought into a facility that's made it into lumber and then shipped to home improvement store, something to that effect. I just felt that a more general retail office type of sale storage area was more applicable than a large sawmill
This
facility.
isn't a retail
Right.
type of sale.
It's not a retail sale.
I mean, we're bringing raw lumber in both of those cases.
Right,
One, you're having it leave as boards.
right.
The other way, you're having it, one way you're cutting that raw lumber horizontally, and the other way you're cutting that raw lumber vertically,
Right.
in my mind. And would be very similar as long as there's no retail sales happening there, one to the other.
And also, I also considered a warehouse use, because a warehouse is really just a storage area for products that come in and out. There's no sales there. But this really isn't a warehouse facility. There's no building and structure. There's no 50 employees coming in with tractor trailers and loading areas and that type of thing. I didn't think that was applicable.
Did that answer your question, Matt?
Yes, I think. Yeah, it's all, nothing fits perfectly, but I just was interested in the thought process and the other options that were considered. Yeah. Okay, do you have any questions for Mr. Longstreth? Okay. Do any of the objectors have any questions for Mr. Longstreth?
Mr. Decker or Ms. Burgess? No. Any more questions?
Mr. Longstreth, I guess Mr. Decker would now go ahead and present anything he wants to present as his case in chief. But he doesn't have to ask questions, he can just present anything he wants. Is that okay?
Sure. We want to hear what either or both of you have to say regarding a matter.
Sucks getting old. Members of the zoning board, thank you for sacrificing your time to serve the township community as well as supporting our local fire department. Thank you. This may seem a little long-winded, so please bear with me as I think it is important. I want to acknowledge Deb and apologize for making her type. I'll start off first with the public hearing notice, which I found to be deceptive, and quite possibly it's because of the way the applicant applied. I stopped by the township building today to see a copy of Mr. Diller's variance application, and it was very saddened to learn of the medical emergency last Thursday. I did not get to see the application. The notice mailed out to the neighbors states there is a public hearing to, quote, consider the application of Elvin B. Diller III relating to property known as 6745 Old Harrisburg Road, unquote. There is no mention in the notice of the businesses named EB Clearing or EB Mulch, which are owned by Mr. Diller. The history of EB Clearing, or Elvin B. Diller III, has established a reputation in the township as a nuisance to their neighbors on White Church Road. Complaints have been submitted to the Board of Township Supervisors and to the Department of Environmental Protection. I find this lack of specificity in the notice or the application to be deceiving to the unaware resident that doesn't attend township meetings. Secondly, the notice states, quote, the proposed gravel lot will be used for stockpiling firewood, period. Again, I feel this is deceptive. This notice could have the unaware neighbor thinking a private citizen is going to store his personal firewood on the property for his own use. Hence, the neighbors, that's what they got. Maybe that's why some of them haven't showed up. What he read to us in his reading was a very good description, a better description of what the notice that the neighbors received. From the knowledge I've gained from attending township meetings, the notice does not inform the unaware, unsuspecting neighbor that does not attend meetings that Mr. Diller's company will be bringing in tractor trailers of tree logs to be unloaded, saw cut and split to size for profit, then reloaded and hauled out of the property by dump trucks. And in the one meeting I was at, Mr. Diller said those 40 truckloads of logs coming in would take approximately 200 dump trucks to take the wood out. So this is manufacturing. Sized firewood does not make itself. The word manufacturing or processing is not to be found in this notice. With a vague notice like this, it's no wonder residents get blindsided. This inadequate notice from Mr. Diller's application is deceiving to the neighbors and the township. Because of it, the board should find it unacceptable for the unaware residents, in my opinion. Dear members of the zoning board, I please ask that you not grant this variance due to safety and noise concerns. Noise concerns. I work in a quarry operation, so I know a little bit about dump trucks and payloaders. I know that they make a lot of noise when running and disperse a lot of emissions into the air we breathe. I know that trucks and loaders have very loud and annoying backup alarms for the safety of their employees and visitors. When trucks arrive and depart, they will naturally be accelerating and deaccelerating in front of neighbors' homes, which makes the trucks even louder and emits even more emissions into the air. Fuel and dust emissions from this property could be a whole nother subject matter relating to health issues. Some dump truck drivers like to clean their bed out by raising the bed up the whole way, moving forward, and quickly hitting the brakes to slam the hanging tailgate against the bed of the truck. Some dump trucks have vibrators for the same purpose, and both methods make a horrible sound. Now onto the sound of manufacturing. I think we all know how loud saws can be, especially chainsaws. The sound of chainsaws can carry for great distances. Surely we will hear the noise of these saws inside and outside of our homes. I would assume the employees on site are wearing hearing protection, wouldn't you? If the noise is loud enough for the employees to wear hearing protection, then the noise is loud enough to be a nuisance to the neighbors. And last but not least is the thunderous sound of cut firewood falling from a raised payloader bucket crashing into the empty hollow bed of a dump truck, one right after another after another. Please take this into consideration. Reading from the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code 910.2, the board may grant a variance if all of the following relevant factors are established. Factor number 4, that the variance, if authorized, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or district in which the property is located. From the Huntington Township Non-Vehicular Nuisance Ordinance Code Section 10-104, paragraph H, the maintenance or causing of any loud or excessive noise or sound which disturbs the general public. An excessive or loud noise shall be any noise or sound of such intensity as to cause severe annoyance and discomfort to any group of persons. I implore you to please consider the comfort and enjoyment of our homes. I personally labored my whole life to pay off my 30-year mortgage, and I don't want to be forced to move. The impact of the appearance of the site, the noise, dirt, dust, and fuel emissions will have the value of our homes should be considered also because of those factors. Most importantly, safety. As I am sure you are well aware, the township recently allowed a big company, JVI, to have its foothold in the township on the before-mentioned Old Harrisburg Road with a fleet of large, heavy dump trucks, too many to count. Because I've worked swing shift for the last 42 years, I'm home, off work, trying to sleep on some weekdays, and I can testify a lot of those days the heavy truck traffic is relentless south of JVI's new home because they seem to refuse to send any trucks north on Old Harrisburg Road, even to go north on New 15. And Mr. Reniker, with all due respect, I think you're very fortunate they don't travel in your direction living so close.
They do.
They do?
They do.
I did not know that.
They do. I've counted.
Really?
They go both ways.
Really?
So, go ahead.
So, I was under the impression they didn't. I wrote here that the neighbors to the south are taking the full brunt of this large-scale heavy dump truck traffic. I realize JVI is in the building stage, but when finished, will the fleet of trucks reside in this new location with daily southbound traffic going in and out to their job sites? I've asked the township this question and cannot get a definitive answer. They really don't seem to know. So now Mr. Diller wants to add his tractor trailers and dump trucks to the traffic using the same direction of travel as Big JBI. This small piece of property where EB wants to conduct its large-scale firewood processing is surrounded by many well-established family residential homes that have enjoyed their peace and quiet for a very long time. The safety of this road comes into question with the combination of JVI and now EB clearing. Residents have lanes and driveways to enter and exit from their daily travels. There are elderly people trying to get the mail from their mailboxes. Wintertime, people are clearing snow from their mailboxes. Children are waiting for their school buses. Summertime, people are mowing, children are playing, and adults are walking, jogging, and riding bicycles for exercise. The established 55-mile-per-hour speed limit on this section of Old Harrisburg Road was not taking into account this large amount of heavy truck traffic. Many drivers think they can get away with driving 5 or 10 mile per hour over the speed limit because they always have, and police let it slide. Now we're up to 65 mile per hour. The long, straight, flat mile stretch of road that I have lived on for the past 42 years is adjacent to the crest of the Diller property. It has a passing lane and sometimes appears to be used for a drag strip. Residential and commercial vehicles speed on this flat stretch of road. There's no denying it. I've lived on it for 42 years. I truly believe in my heart there is going to be a serious accident with one of these many trucks traveling on this road. Okay, so I know this is a state road and not a township road. But if the members of this board can lend a helping hand to the safety of its township residents, I think it should do so without hesitation. Safety of innocent residents should always be a top priority. Now let's think about the safety of the employees working on this property. I personally work in a high-intensity stone quarry operation where I run a plant and also run heavy equipment. So I have some familiarity with the danger of my environment every day. My employer takes safety very, very seriously, and accidents still do happen. I have been trained and conditioned to think about safety 24/7 at work as well as at home. I think we all know the simple act of just cutting firewood is dangerous. If employees are dealing with large, heavy logs that used to be full-grown trees, there is a risk for entrapment, crushed feet and limbs, and head injuries. There could also be severe flesh wounds from saws causing uncontrollable bleeding where medical attention is needed within minutes to save a life. Then we have the possibility of a fire with plenty of fuel to feed it. If there is a bad accident or fire and first responders need to come onto the property, are they going to be able to get onto the property if there's only one lane in and the same one lane out? These trucks will have only a limited amount of space. Are the trucks going to be sitting on Old Harrisburg Road blocking traffic, waiting for other trucks to come out of the property? What if my 88-year-old father, who is here tonight and who also lives on this road, is having a medical emergency and trucks are blocking traffic? Again, you have the ability and responsibility to lend a helping hand to the safety of innocent people. I encourage you to do so. I ask that you please take the variance from section 27-1155.5.a, which requires at least 2 separate points of ingress and egress, very seriously. Also, the applicant is seeking a variance from section 27-1155.5 that requires a traffic impact study. Why is he seeking this variance? Because it's unsafe. Again, I please ask that you do not grant these variances. Thank you for taking the time to hear me out. I appreciate it.
So Mr. Deckard, I want to respond here because I write the notice of public hearing, and I'm not from York Springs or Huntington Township. I live in Gettysburg, so I don't know any of the issues surrounding the business that Mr. Diller operates on White Church Road. I take the application, and he's requested variance from 4 sections, and that's what is in there. And I want to be clear to you, people here, and my advice to the board, we are not here today to decide whether Mr. Diller can operate a firewood storage, cutting, processing facility on this property. That is in no way an issue tonight. This board does not have the authority to say that use, well, in this context, I should say, that use is appropriate or not appropriate for the site. The issue before this board today is whether it all surrounds parking and traffic ingress, egress to the property. The township, through its employee, the zoning officer, who had a difficult, I'm not trying to rag on Mr. Longstreth here, had a difficult job here to say, what is this? Because the zoning ordinance doesn't have something that obviously applies in terms of a use to what is being proposed here. And so thought that the retail sales and so forth use under 271155 and the regulations surrounding ingress, egress, how parking is constructed and so forth should apply to this. And so that is the question before the board, as to whether to grant variances from what is required in terms of those things. Should it require, if the board agrees that this is a retail type of use, retail store sales type of use, it has to decide whether the applicant has met its burden to be granted a variance from these sections that require traffic impact studies, standard straight curbs and pedestrian walkways, 2 entrances for ingress and egress, and then separately, ordinance section that doesn't just apply to retail store sales use, but requires a all-weather surface, so basically paving of some sort, whether they met their burden to be granted a variance from that. So we're not really here tonight to determine whether this use is appropriate for this site or not. If it's a retail store sales use, that's not even an issue because that's a permitted use in the commercial industrial district, if that's what this use is. But that's not before us tonight. And so that's why that was drafted that way. And by the way, neither the ordinance or the municipality's planning code requires that adjacent property owners be given any notice at all beyond the advertisement and the sign posted on the property. So that was done as a courtesy to the neighboring properties owners to come in, and was not, I can assure you, meant to be deceptive in any way.
I'm sorry if I offended you.
You don't offend me. This is my job, and I
sense that I have offended you. That's why I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that quite possibly the notice was because of the way the applicant applied.
I think that that's part of it. Is that the zoning hearing board has to deal with what is submitted to it, and what is submitted to it largely depends on how various township officials have treated a development plan. What is this use? What is this that you're proposing? How does the zoning ordinance apply to this? And we can't control that. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. And I'm not again, I'm not offended. I'm really not. But I want to make that clear to everybody here that the board is not here tonight to decide whether Mr. Diller should be able to store cut firewood on this property and operate heavy machinery on this property. This is a commercial industrial district. To some extent, those types of intensive uses are going to be permitted in this zoning district. Now, there are other types of uses which might be applicable here, like manufacturing or warehousing or things like that, that aren't uses permitted as of right, but would be permitted as conditional uses, which require a separate process, where your concerns about noise, safety, may be more relevant than they are to whether they should be granted variances from curb requirements and sidewalk requirements and so forth. That's a very different issue. So I'm fine, Mr. Deckard, and I understand your frustration. I think it's just a difficult way that this came before the board. So I just wanted to interject there because I want to assure you and everyone here that this is not intended to be deceptive. Some of that might be me being from out of this immediate vicinity. You know, the applicant is who the applicant is, and that's on the application, and that's how I have to advertise it. Sometimes people put on the application a little bit more detail where the company that's going to operate a business on the property is the applicant and the owner's the owner, but that's not what came before this board. So in any event, I just want to make that clear to everybody here that that's not before the board tonight. We're probably going to be dealing more along this issue of whether the paving's required, number one, and whether this use is actually and the requirements under 271155 are even applicable to this. Go ahead, Mr. Deckard.
But before the board is the safety of the variances, whether or not the variance is unsafe or not. That is before the board.
In terms of the traffic impact study, if the use is the retail store sales use, and the board decides to proceed on that, that will be up to them. Obviously, I can provide advice, but it's up to them, not me. They will need to decide whether the applicant has met its burden and should be granted a variance. You're correct about that.
Can I ask Mr. Decker a question?
Sure.
So, Mr. Decker, being that you're adjacent and on Sunset Lane, if the applicant would put a second driveway that's right across from Sunset Lane to meet the requirements of the ordinance, how would you feel to have that second entrance right across from Sunset Lane, that truck traffic starting and stopping right there?
I wouldn't care for it.
So my question to you is, because if they did that, that variance would not be in front of the board. They could make adjustments if then they would have to go against PennDOT, but they could possibly have that second entrance right there at you versus what they're asking us to have a variance so that the driveway is now further from Sunset Lane down at the northern part of the property. So if we would deny this variance request, they potentially could build that driveway right across from you.
Yeah.
So how would you feel about that?
I would not like that, but in reality, when you really think about it, I mean, that might be the sacrifice I'd have to take to save a life. Because can you imagine that stretch, flat stretch of road that I live on, I'm sure you're all familiar with it. These kids speeding up and down that road, cresting down that hill in the hollow, that tractor trailer pulled out across both lanes.
I'm just
It's a
wondering.
sacrifice I might have to live with to save somebody's life. I hate it. I hate to have
But I
that
mean,
traffic
I mean,
up there at my
that-
end of the property. Sorry.
Yeah, I introduced, sorry. Sorry, Deb. But I mean, that there, the driveway permit would be coming from PennDOT because it is a state road. So that'd be on PennDOT to approve that. I'm just,
Yeah. And it's my understanding with the retention ponds and everything like that in there, there might be 1 acre of usable land there. And if these heavy trucks are in that property and it's wet, those trucks, I don't have much room to maneuver around and they could get stuck. Then now you got these trucks sitting in there that can't get out, and you got trucks that are coming that are gonna be sitting on Old Harrisburg Road and can't get in. I just see a possible traffic hazard there that could potentially be a safety hazard. I think we're asking for problems. I think we're asking for more complaints to the township supervisors. And I'd like to mention, it hasn't been brought up, that initially, from going to the township meetings, this initially was proposed as mulch retail sales and topsoil screening, selling topsoil. And it's changed, the plans seem to change as we go along. So potentially, Mr. Diller said, we could do retail sales in that property. I think it's just just as we go along, I think things can change.
Just to be really, really clear, if this board denies all 4 of these exceptions, and Mr. Diller chooses to abide by those denials, in other words, makes everything, does do 2 entrances, does the curbing and walkways, that would be a supervisor or the Adams County Planning Commission decision, not our decision. We could deny these requests, and he would still be able to move forward because we don't have that authority. All we're acting on tonight are these 4 requests. Not noise, not safety, and I hear you, I've taken notes. I ran with York Springs Ambulance, I drove 40 years, and I've been in these situations, Jeff. I understand how this can happen. But 3 of us are only asked to render a decision on these 4 requests, nothing else. That's our duty. That's what we're sworn to do. But you have valid points. I just want that to be clear to everybody here and to all the residents of Huntington Township. And I don't have any idea what PennDOT's considering if they do ask for 2. Maybe PennDOT will say, no way. I don't know, Jeff. I really don't know. That's not my decision. I do know that Huntington Township has been asked by at least one resident to lower the speed limit on Old Harrisburg Road. And they have been told, that resident was told that there was a traffic study that was going to be conducted in 25, 26.
Good.
Because those, I sit right at the top of that hill coming down into the square, into the crossing in York Springs on 94. And you talk about Jake brakes. Jeff, you haven't heard Jake brakes. And my bedroom is in the front corner of our home. And those Jake brakes are loud.
Yeah.
They've gotten me up many, many times. So be it. But I'm not gonna second guess PennDOT. So,
I have a question, I'm not sure. who to
Sure.
Direct this to.
well, throw it out, we'll,
Mr. Longstreth. I've heard reference to a traffic impact study and allowing PennDOT information
Speak up
that
a
they
little
submit to PennDOT to also be
Speak up.
submitted to the township and satisfy the township requirements. Where is that in the,
can you speak up a little bit more, Tom? A little louder.
where's the reference in the zoning code to a traffic impact study? I'm looking at the marked up copy for variance request number 1. Variance request number 2.
Yeah, so it refers to the traffic study requirements that are in the subdivision land development ordinance. But because it's noted in the zoning ordinance is why we requested it, requested variance tonight. And again, that was why I kind of piggybacked onto that earlier during my testimony, that when we get to land development, we would also have to ask for a waiver of that section 510 during the land development process as well.
Okay.
So that would just cover both sets of ordinances.
Thank you.
We'll give Mrs. Brocius an opportunity. to-
Sure.
I don't have them, but
So in your, I didn't actually really see this too much, but in the map, is the entrance a one-way, or is it enough for 2 vehicles? I guess that's the question for him, even if he's worried about, Mr. Decker, if he's worried about getting in for safety reasons, is it
It's
one?
listed as a 24-foot,
Okay, so it is 2.
so that's enough for
Okay.
2.
All right, that was one question. And I brought up in other previous meetings, in this, I guess you're gonna have a way that they can get in the driveway and get to the billboard, is that correct?
Much easier.
Okay,
for 'em,
good.
so.
That was a previous. We're good. That was the big thing before.
And the billboard is for US 15, is that?
It's on his property, and they used to drive between his property and mine.
And your property is located
South, right south. Yeah,
immediately south?
correct, yeah.
Okay, okay.
It got brought up in a different thing. I just didn't know
Okay.
how they were planning on doing that, so. Because my septic is near there, that's the only reason. Yep.
Certainly understand
Okay.
that.
No, everything else is fine. That's my big thing.
Okay. Ask for comments from the other 2.
Yeah, everything.
Any closing comments? Or do you want to do closing comments first?
Ask what the applicant would like to do, I guess.
So, do you have any closing comments, Mr. Diller?
I don't have
Mr.
any.
Wilson?
No, I do just want to clarify one thing. And since this was submitted to you guys and going back and forth with PennDOT, this still is not settled with PennDOT. The driveway, they have asked us to modify this to a minimum use driveway, which is a 20-foot width instead of a 24-foot width. When it originally was done as a, what they call low volume driveway. But with the traffic volumes that we're looking at now, they're saying that it could fall under the minimum use driveway requirements instead of a low volume, which the maximum width is 20 foot instead of 24 foot. Again, that's not set in stone yet, but that's where we've had just recent discussions with PennDOT about that.
So that's a PennDOT thing.
Right, that's a PennDOT thing.
Does PennDOT allow a wider driveway than's required? Is that?
They can allow wider than, like that case where it's 20 foot, they can allow a little bit wider with certain justifications. They have their standard criteria for a minimum width driveway, which is, or a minimum use driveway, which is typical like a single family home or like a duplex if they share a driveway. And that's why they just have a narrower, the narrower throat of a 20-foot maximum. Typically, even they're even smaller than that, but we're looking at a 20-foot is what they're asking. But again, that's not set in stone yet at this point.
Can triaxles make that turn into a 20-foot driveway without swinging into the
They
other
can-
lane?
Sorry. Now I'm
sorry.
interjecting in between. But yes, they can make that turn. There's enough on site where they can make that turn and not have to swing out on the road and you know
Right.
how it is, yeah.
But if, I guess I'm just following because I don't understand, and I don't know to what extent it's relevant. If PennDOT says this is a minimum use driveway, what is your understanding of their interest in saying it shouldn't be wider than the 20 feet? Why would they care?
Well, they care because they have a set standard for what they classify as a minimum use driveway. I can't give you any more reason than that. That's all I understand it.
Longstreth, do you have any closing comments that you'd like to make?
No.
Okay, Mr. Deckert, would you like to make any closing comments? Just
I can't emphasize enough safety.
Ms. Brocius, did you give me your entry appearance form?
Oh, yeah.
And would you like to say anything?
No, I think we're fine.
Thank you. I would like,
Okay.
I would like to, the two, Cody and Maria, I would like to give you all the opportunity to make comments if you'd like to.
You could go first.
Doesn't matter.
You know, I mean, everybody's here for different reasons, and even though I may not live directly adjacent to the property, I'm more here in support of the people that are and the township of itself. Mr. Teeter, even though you may not have meant to come off upset, you did sound rather upset at Mr. Decker, you know, at least from my standing. And as you're not from here, I understand, but this has been kind of an ongoing issue here and a hot topic over the past several months, actually clear back to April and even before that. So that's where some of the, you know, comments are coming at. And that leads me to my main question. You guys are here for the 4 listed things. That's, you know, pretty clear that you can't do any more than that. But I think the bigger issue of the whole deal is, what even is it? Because in April, we started this, and these are the comments from the county that was given to the township from Andy Merkel. As Mr. Decker said, it was supposed to be a mulch storage, topsoil screening, sales operation was what it started at. We get to August, and now it's cutting and hauling out firewood. And so we've gone from,
Cody, you have 30 seconds yet. I said,
okay,
give
that's
you
how
2
we want
minutes.
to play it. Andy Merkel says right here, if it's not a retail sales operation, should be treated as light manufacturing and seek conditional use approval like the other business site, directly from the county in regards to zoning ordinance consistency, which you gentlemen are in charge of. So I'm going to be quiet now, and I'll bring my point to to the board, but before you should be able to rule on any of that, we should know what the daggone thing's gonna be, because if it's not sales, which I think you guys know what's going on, but we'll see what you do. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay, can I ask a question of, maybe Mr. Wilson or Mr. Longstreth, based on the comment there that it should be treated as light manufacturing? Whose suggestion was that it be treated as light manufacturing? Do you know?
I think that was the
That was
county
county.
planning.
I can give, if you'd like a copy of this, I can submit this as.
You should have.
Well, I don't think you can't really introduce the evidence. but-
Yeah, I know, that's unfortunate.
I'm asking Mr. Longstreth and Mr. Wilson that the county felt that this was light manufacturing.
Yeah, that was in their review of the original land development submission. And can I clarify one thing about the use that's been brought up a couple times? Originally, when it was proposed, it was, if I say anything incorrect, jump in, the screening and stockpiling of topsoil. And he had told me firewood, in twisting my brain, I put down mulch. He met with the planning commission in, was it May or June? And heard the concerns of the residents and took the topsoil completely off of the table. And just at that point, he said, I'm just gonna do the firewood. That alleviates concerns about the dust and the noise of the screening machine, and that's where we are at now. So we're not, that's something that, yes, it has changed from the original submission for land development, but that's been pretty clear and open in the public that we're not, it's not being something that we're trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes.
Okay. Marie?
Let me stand up. Got to get away from the audio recorder. One of the things that's an issue is the board table. I don't hear what you're saying, and especially when you're low. But in reference to this, why I wanted to come and speak was, what affects any neighbor in this community affects the whole community. And as it's been stated by Mr. Decker, there's issues with the other EB property, and it causes fear for the residents. And the big issue was actually with me when I went in and checked the letter that was sent by Mr. Teeter. I was like, where's the rest of the use? Because if I had not previously been recording all these different meetings and hearing Mr. Diller indicate that one of the issues was, he indicated that those workers are going to be there from sun up to sundown. That's, okay, so how often are these, when are the trucks going to stop? Is this going to be, especially in the evening? He also indicated that it's somewhat seasonal. So what they do is, it's all spring and summer, I believe, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Diller, and that it stops in the fall. But there's, like I said, it's
You have
very
30
confusing
seconds.
to the residents,
Okay,
okay? Mhm.
point made.
Thank you.
Could I have part of her 30, be real quick?
Go
Come on.
ahead, as a courtesy, go ahead.
Okay. I don't think, at least from my perspective, I don't want to see the man do and have a business. But there's rules in the township that need to be followed, and they're applied to other people in this township to the full extent. And as long as, like you said, he complies, you could deny all these variances and he could comply with all of them. Okay? There's no problem there. I just think that some of that might not be wanting to be happening because of getting around things. So I don't want the man to not have his business. It just needs to be done the way it should be, and that's what you guys are here for tonight. So I don't want to cause any contention or anything, but there seemed to be some, you guys this is the first time you met all year. You haven't been coming to the meetings and know what's been going on, so, it may do some people some good, but that's all I've got, sorry. Thank you for allowing me to.
Sure.
I thought you knew everything that's going on, Dave.
I do not.
I'm just kidding. And I just want to follow up. So, yeah, I had a strong response to Mr. Decker's testimony. I apologize if that came off
Well, I understand
wrong.
why, I get it.
No hard feelings here.
No.
I just want to clarify, from time to time in zoning hearings, we get these things that there's,
We're not used
some
to this
conspiracy afoot, and I just want to assure you that there was none of that here. This came before the board, and I think in an interesting and way, based on how the use was characterized,
stuff. Mhm.
and there's nothing the board can do about that necessarily.
Right.
But in any event, our next step, if the board would like, would be to adjourn into an executive session to engage in quasi-judicial deliberations as permitted under the Sunshine Act. If the board would like to so adjourn, we can meet in private in another office.
I do.
Okay?
First four on the right.
About time.
So they corresponded, so they knew where we were going.
Okay, is there a motion to go forward?
I move to adjourn this matter to September 24th at 7 PM at the Huntington Township's offices. We will hold a decisional meeting and render a decision at that time.
And I second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Discussion from the board.
Here.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That will be so moved. And I'm announcing that the board will hold an executive session on Wednesday, September 3rd at 7 PM here at the Huntington Township offices to conduct quasi-judicial deliberations as permitted under Section 708A5 of the Sunshine Act. This will not be a public meeting. This is executive session only. Meeting for this evening is adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.